Nice. So we have, we're synced. We're ready to go. I'm blocking the wire with my body.
All right.
And laptop is no longer shaking. Hit me! You've got stuff to tell me. I'm so excited.
You see what I mean? You got to be crazy. It's too late to be sane. You got to go full tilt bozo. Because you're only given a little spark of madness.
We are attention.
If you lose that, you're nothing.
Attention.
Pay attention!
From me to you, don't ever lose that. Because it keeps you alive.
Different.
Now, you have some pretty strong opinions about I am versus I have, and how you define it for yourself, and how you choose to talk about your ADHD. Tell me a little bit about that. Let's shift gears here a little bit, and let's have you really tell not only me but tell the listeners why you feel so strongly about this and how you talk about your own ADHD.
Great. Overall, I believe that I am over I have. So I'll start by saying I currently will tell people I am attention different or I am ADHD. That was not always the case. From high school, from diagnosis through high school into college, I said I am. About 2 to 3 years out of college, I was dabbling in I have because of a very compelling argument from some ADHD friends regarding mental conditions and whether or not they define you. And to be entirely transparent, it was a conversation over schizophrenia and bipolar. Some friends of mine who are bipolar profess that they are afraid to say I am bipolar, and they have every right to be afraid because there's a disorder in which technically, as far as we know neurologically, you lose yourself for some period of time. You white out and do things and say things that you absolutely did not mean to say or do. That is a much stickier situation to claim with confidence. I am all those things I said, all those things I did. For someone in that situation, it feels way more comfortable and powerful and fulfilling to say, no, I have this thing that I treat and I manage, and I am something entirely different. I am this person. I don't act this way.
I think it comes back to that sense of both the stigma in society, the level of stigma, because schizophrenia and bipolar are two of the biggest kind of have the most stigma, let's say, of mental conditions. Like those are two really heavy labels. I just think it's much harder with those labels to admit and to identify with those conditions or as those conditions in certain contexts or even in most contexts, both like interpersonally, relationships, business context, school. As soon as you say, I am diagnosed with this condition, or I have this condition, or I am this condition, some conditions are more easily digestible than others, and don't come along with so much of that stigma.
Which is a tough point to make, which is a really controversial and challenging thing to say. But I also agree, almost pragmatically speaking. Or logically speaking, there are conditions have different stakes, and a condition in which your day-to-day may be problems with a to-do list, finishing work on time, impulsive behavior, speaking out in class, disinterest, or daydreaming, when compared to a human being who blacks out, right?
Well, let's not say blacks out, but has a
compared to a human who has an involuntary
disassociated from reality, and can not distinguish between certain types of auditory hallucinations or visual hallucinations or whatever it might be. I will asterisk that and say it doesn't mean we're comparing apples and oranges here, because it doesn't mean that ADHD
that's what I'm saying.
Isn't any less severe or that there's not a in some cases, depending on the level of severity of symptoms, it can't be just as impairing in certain daily life functionings.
Where I am already disagreeing in this debate is that most extreme bipolar case compared to most extreme ADHD case, most extreme bipolar case, 10 times worse, 100 times worse.
Okay, but
mathematically impossible to.
But it doesn't.
But
Does it matter? Because we can.
Yes, it does. I think it does. I think it matters because I have a way easier time saying I am ADHD and a rapid cycling bipolar patient, male or female. You're rapid cycling on a day-to-day basis or a week-to-week basis, and guess what? They don't have that freedom.
Exactly.
So I am
maybe,
saying that the most severe ADHD case has way more freedom than a rapid cycling bipolar patient.
Okay.
Hands down.
So that might be privilege. We might
So
be
I'm
getting
saying
back
that's
to
privilege. Yes, that's
Yeah.
privilege. I'm saying that I have the privilege as a high functioning, which is another tough phrase. That's another gray phrase.
Mm-hmm.
But socially, colloquially, we say I'm high functioning or high functioning because we have a version of
Graduated
ADHD.
college. You're
Graduated college, applying to grad school and been accepted. You've gone to grad school. We are, as by social standards, highly functioning ADHD men, right? So yes, of course, I know people who are homeless in ADHD.
and we're white men.
And we're white straight men who went to college and grad school and have ADHD. That's high functioning and high privilege. We know people who are on the way opposite side of the scale as far as ADHD is concerned. But my point is there is an absolute dividing line between certain mental conditions where certain people are afforded the freedom to claim in a more confident and positive way their condition versus certain people who they aren't mentally capable of that freedom. And it goes. There is certain. I know. I love.
I don't like the mentally they're incapable.
Well, then what? Then how would you define like somebody?
I would say it's much. I would say there's more barriers in their way, and I would say there's more societal barriers. There's more structural barriers. There's more stigma. There's a greater cost to them admitting or them taking on that identity or them deciding to put that out there and put themselves out there. So you were saying I am ADHD. So you had these friends who were kind of coming back at you with, they're having a harder time accepting this, and you for a while switched your standpoint to saying, okay, I have ADHD versus I am ADHD, but then you switch back. So where are you at now, and what made you switch back?
So I was flip-flopping a little bit before our second CHAD conference. No, the first CHAD. Sorry, my first CHAD in 2015, I went to a lecture by one of my icons of psychology. And at the end of his lecture on comorbidity between bipolar and ADHD, I asked him, do you say I have or do you say I am? Because, as it turns out, this psychologist has ADHD. So I asked him, do you say I am or I have? And at that time, I had been saying I have for a few months. And the reason I specify is it was very short, these phases after college. I was flipping back and forth a lot. So at that moment...
Yeah, but your friends strongly influenced you before going to this conference.
Both ways.
Yeah.
Both ways. I was getting influences for am and have.
So
I asked this doctor, do you say I am or do you say I have? He kind of leaned back and thought, and then said to the crowd, that's a great question. And I say I am ADHD. And I laughed, and then he chuckled, and I said, I'm sorry I'm laughing, but I have said I am for years and recently switched to I have, and now I'm switching back. And then the room kind of chuckled together and we laughed. And that in that moment, I needed to hear that from that person at that time in my life to essentially set it in stone. I will never go back to have. I am ADHD. Never
go back. Never going back.
Never with a capital N. Hearing this person who I respect a great deal say I am ADHD with confidence, I was like, done. I am.
So he reinstilled that confidence in you to
and
take
then
that
later,
back on. So you feel like ADHD is so much a part of who you are and a part of your brain, and it's this intractable aspect or aspects of who you are, that you are not separate from it, and it can't be siloed off or sectioned off and said, well, let's look at the ADHD traits of you, or let's look at the ADHD parts of you. It's like ADHD is you in every aspect and facet of your life and your being, and you're choosing to embrace and embody all of those things at once.
I'll give you my most compelling case. Because ADHD is not a disease or a virus or a bacteria that I contracted post my most formative years. I'll repeat that. Because I did not contract ADHD post my formative years. And I believe that. I don't think people contract ADHD. Because I was born this way, we woke up like this.
We woke up like this.
We woke up, because I woke up like this at age 0, every learning experience, every discovery, every class I took, every activity I did with peers of mine, with adults, with authority, every action was colored or coded in character traits that are unique to ADHD. It is impossible to strip my brain wiring from every moment of my life since I took my first breath, because I had it at birth. Just like anybody who is homosexual or transgender. I mean, if you are from birth designed a certain way, that is going to have some effect, either small or big, depending on the context, depending on the time, depending on the age, on my actions, my thoughts, my choices, the direction that I choose to go. I may have been blessed, which I'll strike that. I was blessed. I was blessed by an early diagnosis. I was diagnosed at the age of 10. So from 10, I understood there was a seed planted that I am different in some way. So already from the age of 10 years old, I am taking note of and observing my world through a defined lens, through a lens that was defined for me by doctors, by psychologists and psychiatrists. So how could I possibly argue that ADHD is a disease that I have or something that I treat, when from the age of 10, I knew that it existed? And every choice and action and activity that I performed in, I was operating under the lens of being different. So
Right.
all of my character traits, all my personality traits, the words that I say, the rate at which I talk, all of my coping mechanisms, all of that defines my personality. This is really a discussion about personality. How is your personality defined? And Aaron, my personality is defined by all sorts of character traits. My skin color, my hairstyle, my fashion sense, what city I currently live in, what kind of car I drive. So if all of those,
Yeah, but those
have an
are
effect,
external. Yeah.
absolutely. You know what I'm saying? But don't cut me off too soon. If all of those material things have an observably significant effect on my personality, the fact that I have a mental condition that I was born with, it has to hold a giant chunk of that pie that we call Steven's personality, right? Because I've lived with it for 26 years. And it's kind of funny turn of a phrase. I just said I've lived with it as though it's a separate thing. But I caught myself. But I have lived, in fact, instead of saying with it, I've lived through it. I have lived through ADHD for 26 years. It is impossible to detach from my personality. Impossible.
If you are ADHD, does that mean that, let's say if they developed some kind of way to implant an electrode in your brain, or treat your ADHD, remove your ADHD from you, some magic pill, some electrical stimulation, something that would just take that ADHD away, do you feel like you would be losing something about yourself that you wouldn't choose to even do that even if you had that option, you would choose to keep your ADHD, you would choose to keep who you are and be ADHD, even if that was a possibility?
So, in my current situation, I am very happy with the cards that I was dealt, the poker hand that I received at birth. I will clarify, as many should, that I had no control over which parents I was born to, or which brain or body I was born with. But I'm pretty fucking happy. Sorry for the curse, but I'm pretty happy.
Don't be sorry.
I'm very happy with the situation I was born into. So it's a lot easier for me to say the following. If I could choose to get rid of my ADHD tomorrow, I would absolutely say no. I'll give you the like romantic side and then the like pragmatic side. The romantic side is I don't want to lose this part of me that I've lived through for 26 years. It's so ingrained in my personality and being. I would definitely long for elements of the ADHD. Here's the pragmatic side. Why the fuck would I go to sleep tonight and wake up a different person and start at square zero, right? Like that was like if I went to bed tonight and woke up not ADHD, like the easy answer is, oh, suddenly you don't have all these challenges and mental blocks. No. My personality would be so erratically different. My friends would look at me weird. My family would look at me weird. People wouldn't know how to deal with me because the closest people to me who have known me for the longest period of time know me to be the way that I am. I have 8 best friends in high school. We have a name for ourselves. It is too inappropriate for this podcast. And we have been friends for like well over a decade, right? 2 of the people who know me better than anyone on the planet, more than my parents, are from that group, and they treat me the way that they do, and they deal with me the way they do, knowing almost 20 years of ADHD Steven, right? That relationship would change erratically, and that's terrifying. That's deeply upsetting. So I would not want to change what I've got because I got a pretty good thing going. And that I need to admit that because I know plenty of other people, men and women, who have ADHD who don't have a good thing going. Who, if you ask them, would you give it up? Rubbed a lamp and a magic genie came out and said, I can remove ADHD from your life.
If you had one
forever.
wish. If you had one wish. And your ADHD could be gone tomorrow.
I do know. And you and I have interviewed people who have said, yeah, I would remove my ADHD.
And I don't know if I would be strong enough. I mean, I would hope, like, honestly, if I was taking a step back, and I'd like to think that I would be strong enough to have that confidence and say, I'm ADHD and proud and I would choose to have this. I don't know. There's part of me that's like, I might just say, okay. And that's, I hate to admit that. I think this is where, when we first started talking about this, I am versus I have, I was always of the opinion of like, well, I have, and I didn't necessarily see ADHD as that great of a thing. And I really do feel genuinely that ADHD has some great qualities. And I feel like I have some of those qualities. I think it makes me more creative. I think I'm more artistic. I think I'm an out of the box thinker. I think sometimes that risk taking that is impulsivity helped me become an entrepreneur. And I think there's a lot of things about me that ADHD is integral to who I am. ADHD has been hard for me, I think, in my life. If my relationship with ADHD and the symptoms that come along with my ADHD, it's a complicated dance that I go through with that, and it's been one of those things in my own life that has not been that easy. I got in so much trouble. I made some really dumb decisions early on, and I've done things that I totally regret. Growing up, but then at the same time, there's been so many other positive things that have also come from ADHD, where it's this mixed bag. It's not a clear cut. It's not, this black or white, either good or bad thing. But sometimes, like one of my biggest issues was just deciding what to put my energy towards, because my energy was divided in so many different areas. I was interested in drums and guitar and painting and ran track, and then I had basketball, and then I had there was so many different things I was always into, and it was shifting. I'm kind of like became a jack of all trades and a master of none.
That's I think that is number one primo most terrifying phrase for me, but I feel like it's more of an endemic thing in ADHDers. Jack of all trades, master of none. Terrifying.
Well, it can be, and it can lead to a lot of problematic things. It could lead to this insatiable pursuit of certain things, or this
Right.
obsessive pursuit of interests and what's stimulating for you, what's engaging for you, without a focused attention or priority on what's going to be responsible or what's necessary or what's going to help move you closer to your goals and what's going to help you get deeper into certain skills or certain interests so that you can master those skills, or you can develop a competency at certain things. That's the essential drawback, is that sometimes these traits that push us to take risks, to think outside the box, to do things and to see things differently, also can be what holds us back from even accomplishing those very same things. That's why I have such a complicated perspective, because there's days where I sit down and I'm thinking, man, if it was easier for me to be able to do certain daily functions, if I was better with certain aspects of time management, if I was better with certain aspects of my motivation or my diligence or my memory or other things that I feel are affected, those executive functioning things that are affected by having ADHD, would I trade it in? And I know this because it's kind of like, my wife is a complete opposite, right? She's very, she has a high attention to detail. She can be motivated very easily, and she's very organized and can be prompt and on time for lots of things. And there's a part of me that's jealous of that, or there's a part of me that I guess is insecure in some ways, that I wish that it's kind of like the grass looks greener on the other side.
Right.
There's a part of me that's like, I don't know. Would I take the red pill or the blue pill if it was offered to me? And I wonder what that blue pill would be like. Anyways, let's get back
to the point.
So
to the point. Like, if you could take a magic blue pill, I mean, like, you're not alone.
Yeah.
There are. Here's where the question. Here's what makes the question challenging, is that the question isn't if you could blink, close your eyes, go to bed tonight, wake up, and start over, right? As having not had ADHD from the beginning, and live your entire life essentially the same, all the same thing, all the same as much as like is strippable from the condition, which I think is bullshit. But if you could like have the same trajectory and kind of go through that life that you, Aaron, had without ADHD, would you do it? And like, that's a much harder question for me to answer. Like, if I could go, if I, with the same brain, same body type, same interests, go from start to finish without having ADHD, I'm not saying that I would make that wish come true, but I am definitely way more fascinated by how different I would be without ADHD from start to finish.
When we step back and we think about stigma and we think about society and we think about societal expectations, that society values certain things over other things. They may value productivity and efficiency and those kind of things over creativity and ingenuity and insight and energy, which are all things that are ADHD. We have a plethora of those attributes, and
definitely,
and maybe a deficiency, right, or a deficit, quote unquote, of some other attributes or traits. But do we decide to rid society of those colors and those extremes, those beautiful extremes, or even of ourselves? Do we deny? Like, now I'm stepping back because I think I agree with, like, honestly, I agree with you. And this is getting into.
Where's the champagne? There should be champagne. I think I hit a bottle up here somewhere. Right here. I'm just kidding, but that would be great if I had a bottle of champagne.
I believe that the healthiest position is to be able to strongly and confidently and self-assuredly say, I am ADHD, and I'm not afraid to be that, to claim that, to to speak out to whatever context I go to, in the job, in school, in relationships, admit that, and be proud. And the thing that really does like bring me around to this is I really think that your argument about the intractable traits, the things that you were born this way. I remember my dad, for instance, like when he was a child, he had this malformation in his ears where his ears kind of stuck out like this. And his parents decided, gave him the choice, but decided would he like to have plastic surgery to help bring those ears in. And he chose to do it. And I think he's very happy that he did that. I mean, he probably saved himself a lot of ridicule or other things growing up. But that was his choice, and I think that's what it comes down to is it's everybody's choice of whether and how much we reveal, what kind of identity we choose to take on, and how we choose to identify ourselves. And no one should be able to, society shouldn't be able to, parents, teachers, anyone else shouldn't be able to define that identity for us or box us into a certain label or category without us choosing, without us deciding in a way that's confident, self-assured, knowing ourselves. And it may take some time for some folks to be able to do that. And I even think those friends of yours who have schizophrenia or have some other diagnosis, it's not impossible for them to get there either. And that's what I think we're like that's part of what we're doing on this podcast is that anyone, regardless of their differences or disabilities or challenges or whatever it is that's societally seen as something that holds them back or that's hard for them, that they struggle with, that doesn't need to get in their way and doesn't need to be a barrier to their success. And It doesn't need to be something that they shy away from and hide. It should be something that they're empowered to bring to the surface, embody fully, and be who they are and who they were meant to be in all of their beautiful nature. Really kind of blossom or come out of that cocoon and become that butterfly. And we've seen that ADHD butterfly poster, and it's beautiful because it has all those traits. And there's a graphic design artist who designed it, but it's beautiful because it shows all of those upsides and traits that we have. But we have that time period where we are that caterpillar or in that cocoon stage where we're locked in. We don't know how to even embody or harness those things in a way that allows us to spread our wings and to fly and to succeed. Right. And that's part of, I think, why we're doing this podcast. And that's exactly the reason why I agree with you is that I want to get there too. Right. And I thank you for bringing that message to the world and for doing your talk and because it's been, I think it's been life-changing not only for me, but for a lot of folks out there.
And I think why I get so emboldened and emblazoned even regarding the stakes of other conditions, I genuinely feel deeply humbled by the fact that knowing everything I know and having done the research and learned everything I've learned up to this point about my own condition, I know intimately well how lucky I got with the scaffolding that I had from parents and the schools that I went to and the friends that I had and the community that I had, but also the condition that I have and the severity of the condition that I have. I feel very, very humbled that I have this freedom to be so demanding, right? I have a lot of freedom, a lot of privilege, as you pointed out at the beginning of this podcast, to demand that I be treated a certain way. And with that comes two things: the responsibility to act on it, because I have this freedom and I understand that others don't. I better do something with it, because not to is an offense to those who don't have the same freedom. And the responsibility to carry myself correctly and wave the flag in an appropriate and tactful manner so I'm not ruining the experience of other people like me, right? So I'm taking care and I'm catering to those in our group.
But you know what?
Yeah. It's a fascinating place to be in.
We all navigate that privilege. We all have to grapple with those choices and when to advocate in and what circles and how strongly we say things or what we do. We have to just say, look, yes, you are a high-functioning person with ADHD, but you also, that doesn't negate or discount the validity of what you're saying. And I believe that anyone can get to that place where they strongly and confidently adopt a position that you are that condition, that you are you fully, and love yourself fully enough that it no longer matters how negative or how much stigma is attached to those labels or what society thinks of you or how they see you and how they judge you, that you believe so much and love yourself so much that you're willing to step into that ring, to that arena, and be who you are, no matter what. So,
And yeah.
as
I agree.
as RuPaul says,
If you don't love yourself,
how the
how the hell are you gonna love anybody else?
amen.
Now, shall I say, oh wait.
You see what I mean? You got to be crazy. Too late to be sane. You got to go full tilt pose because you're only given a little spark of madness. We are attention. If you lose that, you're nothing. Attention.
Pay attention.